Bruno Sinopoli. He joins us today from Arizona State. This semester, last semester, he was at Washington University in St. Louis. Before that, he was at Carnegie Mellon, all those these within the electrical and computer engineering departments. So there we go. So Bruno is a longtime member of the Control Systems Society, and he comes to us this morning to give us a talk on some new dimensionality reduction techniques he's been working on. So,
perfect. Yeah. Thank you, David. And yeah, can you hear me? Yeah. But are you recording as well? Is that what you're doing? Okay. All right. Then I'll put my best accent, which is not the British one. Right. Yeah. So thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. Yeah, it is actually what, and thank you for the introduction. What the introduction did not mention is that I'm not technically an alumnus of BU because I never got a degree here. But before many of you were born, I was here as an exchange student. And let me put it that it was in the 90s. And I attended one of the first classes Professor Carl ever taught here at BU. Maybe it was the first year, right? Yeah, I was at the University of Padua, where also Francesco comes from, had an exchange program. I don't know how long it lasted for.
It's still going.
It's still going?
As far as I know.
Oh yeah, he's still getting students. So I was the first batch of students, with the first batch of students, to the extent when I went back to Padua, I wrote the conversion, a very convenient conversion in grades that I could get, right. And so I was living here on Bay State Road, at 81 Bay State Road, with a bunch of law students, because fortunately they put me in a grad dorm. And just hanging out in Boston. That was a lovely time, which I remember very fondly. And so this is particularly sentimental coming back to BU. So double thanks for bringing me back here. This building was obviously not here, like many other new buildings that I saw. So also, yeah, that it's a testament to the great growth of BU that makes me very happy. Anyway. So today I want to talk about a topic which to me is very foundational when it comes to data and data science, which is the quest to take data and to extract information in such a way that we preserve informativeness, but we get rid of all the stuff that is not needed, right? And as we acquire more and more data, and I think the need for tools of this sort is even greater because of scaling issues. Right? And scaling issues, not just computability, but energy, storage, and all sorts of things. Right? It is also one of these problems which is related to learning, but we can keep still fairly foundational. We can use the tools that very basic mathematical tools in order to be able to say something conclusively about the tools that we use now. So this is joint work with Baharam Yaguti, who was he just graduated and is going to do a postdoc, I don't know where. And my other colleague, Netan Raviv, who's in computer science at WashU. This is all work that was done while I was at WashU. As David said, I just moved to ASU in January. All right. So if you have questions, please stop me at any time. So here's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to try to set the problem and do a very, very brief review of the existing methods, dimensionality reduction, namely, you can call it feature extractions, right? And then I will give the general idea, right? The approach that we have is very general, and it resorts to this iterative redundancy removal, where at different stages you keep removing redundancy until there's very little left, and very little depend upon engineering considerations, right? And I'll present two methods. One we call Gram-Schmidt functional reduction, which is a actionable tool, where with some performance guarantees, right? And the other is called Gram-Schmidt component analysis, which is more of a theoretical tool in the sense that it can guarantee to remove all redundancy in the data, but it rests on some assumption which are difficult to do, which are actually difficult to validate in a practical setting. But it's very good because of I think theoretically it's very interesting and also gives you a baseline. And as you can see, I think I spoiled it. You can see what these tools are based on. Something that we all studied in our first or second year of college, which is Gram-Schmidt orthogonalization. So this tool is also very easily extendable to feature selection, where we do not combine, we don't write linear combination of the features, but instead we choose some of them, right? We tested this tool on the academic databases, like MNIST and the likes, showing excellent performance. That apparently was not enough for our machine learning community. And so we decided to go and do a little more studies on real data sets. And I'll show an example in genomic, and as well as a couple of others taken from computer vision. All right. So what is the problem, right? You have a number of, you have data, right? And this is these are points in RD, and what you want to do is compress, reduce the dimensionality of this data so that then you can process in a more manageable way. So, and the focus again of this talk will be on dimension reduction. Basically, take this data and project it to a lower dimensional space. And what we want to do is develop a system which is fairly fast, right, linear, right, that preserves the informativeness of the data, and also we're going to do it in an unsupervised fashion. So let's say that the assumptions are that the data belongs to a subspace of dimension n, which is much less than d. And also the assumption is that the redundancy in the data can be nonlinear, right? So the data can be nonlinear function of this subspace. This is just one example where you see the nonlinear dependency. Okay, so there's a bunch of the dimensionality reduction methods, right? The most known of it, the one that you learn in class, is PCA, right? And PCA projects data on directions of maximum variance, right, while preserving the structures. So a number of other methods have been used, like these locally preserving projections, which preserves the local neighborhood relationships, right, by projecting the data on a graph of nearby points. Independent component analysis that separates the data in components that are statistically independent, and most of you might be aware also with kernel PCA, which extends PCA using the kernel to capture the nonlinear redundancies in the data. Right, by projecting to higher dimensional spaces, and this is probably the closest extension of PCA to nonlinear, right? And then there's more of proper learning tools such as uniform manifold approximation projections, also called UMAP, which is again a nonlinear technique that aims at preserving both local and global structure, and is used for visualization and clustering, and then autoencoders, which basically are neural networks. Okay, so what's the problem with dimension reduction, right? There's two main problems. One is feature selection, right? Basically, you take your data and you pick a number of these features as they are without modifying them, right? Feature extraction instead computes new features, which are functions of either linear or non-linear of the original features. Okay. And what you want is, again, to preserve informativeness, right? So you want to make sure that the mutual information between the original data and the reduced data is small, right? As I said, we'll focus on unsupervised, right? Methods, right? And all right. So what are the also one of the goals that we have, we want to be able to remove nonlinear redundancy in the data, but in a linear fashion, right? Existing methods cannot achieve this goal, right? PCA cannot remove nonlinearities, right? And then the nonlinear methods don't use a linear combination of the data, right? Yeah.
PCA is linear in the transform space.
Yes, but the problem with kernel PCA, you can say that it's linear but you still, the big advantage of linear methods is that are more interpretable. And kernel PCA, you lose that. You cannot interpret easily the reduction that you do when you use kernel PCA, right? It's still a nonlinear method, right? Because when you map it, you lose that. Okay, and with deep learning, we all know, right? You have to pick parameters, right? So you need a lot of data, you get no guarantees, and you have issues of robustness. Okay. So again, our goal is to get a simple tool, right? An approach that is systematic, right? Not ad hoc, which depends on fine-tuning parameters deep-rooted in the fundamentals. A tool that eventually is explainable. I think this is key in science. And also, ultimately, you want this to perform just as well or better than other existing methods. So I think that's a set of ambitious goals, right? Try to be as good as what people consider the holy grail these days, but by using a more limited set of tools and actually say something about it. Okay. So the general idea is the following, right? So as I said, we have a general idea, which I will explain in the next few slides, which will turn in two types of algorithms. One is the practical algorithm, right, which provides information theoretic guarantees on this amount of mutual information which is left in the data after you're done. Or redundancies, I should say. And then a theoretical algorithm which provides exact guarantees, but it's not as easily implementable. And the general idea is what we call iterative redundancy removal. Right? So if you take data, which is assumed to be IID from X, you want to find the informative linear projection. And so far, there's nothing new, right? The hypothesis is that X contains redundancies, and these redundancies are both linear and nonlinear function, right, of independent random variables, right? And the key difference from PCA is that these nonlinearities, right? And so what we want to find is projection that can identify these independent random variables, okay? And the general framework is you project, you subtract, and then repeat until your ending conditions are satisfied, okay? So here's the problem set up, right? You fix a family function which you assume captures the redundancy. I know that this is could be seen as a very strong assumptions because when we have data, we don't know actually the nature of the redundancies. But on the other hand, if you pick your family function generic enough, right, it can be very descriptive, and you'll see that even without knowing what the redundant structure is within the data, you can still do very well, right? And then you project. So you find some direction, right, which is a variance maximizer of some distribution, right? You build a new random variable, right, based on the direction that you have identified. And then you subtract, right? So you orthogonalize your family function, and you subtract from this orthogonal set. You subtract this orthogonal set from X to create a new random variable, right, of dj plus 1, and then you just repeat. You iterate j until you're satisfied, right? You have extracted as much information, or there's very little redundancy left in the data, and you can quantify that in an information theoretic manner. Okay, so we're going to use two tools here. One we don't call it. It's a Gram-Schmidt orthogonalization, right? It's in a functional space, right? So basically, you orthogonalize this family of function to get an orthogonal set, right? And here, what is key is that you orthogonalize each variable one by one, right? You orthogonalize f variable by variable, right? And fj is a subset of f, which depends on only on the first j variables, right? And then you perform this orthogonalization, right, to yield the new orthogonal set after you have added the new variable. Okay? Yeah.
The first slide you have f as a function of d variables. Then you seem to have in between a function of a different number of variables. So is f something which is a variable number of variables?
Yeah, so f is a family function, right, which in principle depends, but you know, one f could be just a singleton, right? F of y could be just y. F of y could be y2, y3, and then all combination of them.
So f is a family of functions.
Family of functions.
Indexed by these.
Correct.
These choices.
Correct. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So that's how you capture. So you have all the linear, of course, right? Because that's where you want to start, and then nonlinear, and then depending, you could pick polynomials, for instance, right? And mix and match. Okay. Very good question. Of course, you don't have expectations. Yes.
So where does the y
The y for now are just variables, and then you instantiate them, right? They're just generic function, right? It's the y's, right?
Are they real variables?
They're
Are they vectors?
they are vectors, right? They are.
Each one.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Where was I? All right. For the second tool that we use is the alternative covariance matrices, which is going to provide us with the tool to how to advance, right? So you fix again, the function family. And so for a certain direction, Vj, which is, again, it's a variance maximizer of some distribution, and you can pick and choose which kind of maximizer you use. You set this new random variable, right? Which is, right? You perform the orthogonalization tool that I mentioned, and then you subtract this orthogonal subspace from the original space to create this new random variable dj of j plus one of x, right? And then you repeat this process until the threshold is met. So, so intuitively, this variable represents what remains in the data after you remove the span of OJ, right? And this alternative covariance, you have an alternative covariance matrix, which is also covariance matrix related to this random variable, and this can be computed inside the orthogonalization, the orthogonalized routine, right? And the way you pick the new direction, right, depends upon this covariance matrix, okay? So maybe providing a connection to PCA can help elucidate what we do, right? So PCA project the data on the large eigenvector of the covariance matrix, right? So the K component can be found, as from Wiki, by subtracting the first K minus 1 principal component from X, right? Now, if the family function is only the singleton, then our method generalizes to PCA. That's the main difference from PCA. Right. I'm going to leave it for a second. Yeah.
If the family functions are singletons, then your method specializes PCA.
Correct. It's basically PCA. Right. So again, out of this, we developed a couple of algorithms. The first one, we call it GFR. I don't know that I like the acronym, but we call it Gram-Schmidt functional reduction, right? And please, here we don't make any assumption on the data other than that, the one that you see here. So you take the input is data taken from this IID from X, and you define also a threshold, which will be our stopping condition. And so the output will be the extracted directions, right, of dimension M, and M depends, is varying because it will depend upon how many iterations you do will depend upon the threshold that you set up. Okay. So you initialize your algorithm with the covariance of the data that you have, and your orthogonal subspace is the empty set, right? That's how you start, right? And then you start your iteration from J that goes from 1 to D. You take the largest unit norm eigenvector of the covariance matrix, and if the stopping condition is met, then you're done, right? You've extracted all the information that you set yourself to, right? Because there's also only this epsilon is left. Otherwise, you set your new variable zj to be this inner product of vj transpose with the data, and then you get the new covariance matrix. Yeah, you orthogonalize the set, and then you do the subtraction, right? So what kind of guarantees can we get, right? If X is the data and epsilon are the inputs to your algorithm, then you have your vectors to be the output, where each Vj is the largest eigenvector of this alternative covariance matrix, right? And also you let z, the variable z, to be what we defined in the previous slide, and of course you assume finite alphabet, right? Right. So in terms of proof, one interesting part of it is that these v's are all orthogonal, although they are eigenvector of different matrices. Yeah. We are proving that we are able to sorry, what the hell is that? These are my student slides. Basically, we prove that we can bound the entropy of the remaining data, right? That basically we remove this much information, that we removed all this redundancy, and that the only information that is left in the data is captured by this epsilon squared. Right. So that's the theorem, basically. That the mutual information between x and z, which is the reduced, right, is less. It's bounded by a no of epsilon. That's what we're proving.
That's not the standard notation for mutual information. Am I missing something? H of x slash z.
Uh-huh.
It's usually conditional.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I thought that the slash means conditional.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I thought you said mutual information. Yeah,
Yeah.
No, don't worry about it.
You just want you want the mutual information to be as high as the original, so this just makes sure.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, D was the number of functions that you used in the function?
Yes. Yeah.
So that, as it's linear, it's the dimension of the space, but if it's nonlinear, it could be.
Yeah, it could be large. Yeah. So since it's the dimensionality reduction, you have to use dimensionality reduction for some purpose, right? In order to be able to evaluate, right? And so we have two comparison metrics, right? One is the classification accuracy, right? Where we extract features using different methods, and we use labels, right? And the other is residual variance, where we compare how much variance is left after we do this feature extraction compared to PCA. Okay. So let's talk about classification accuracy for a second. We compare GFR, which is the algorithm that we propose, versus PCA and locally preserving projection, independent component analysis, and kernel PCA with some choice of kernel function. Right? The first comparison is apples to apples because it's linear methods. The second is not because it's a nonlinear method. Although I take your argument that in the higher dimensional space it is linear. So what you can see, I hope, is this comparison study, right, shows that actually the algorithm that we propose does just as well, if not better, than other existing algorithms. And what you will also notice, we did it with choice of multilinear polynomials as our modeling set of redundancies, right? And on the left, we stopped at polynomials of degree 3, so it's not too onerous. And on the right, you see where we do polynomial 4, and what you will see is that we get, as expected, better performance as our functional space is larger, just because you assume that it captures redundancies in a better or not worse than others, right?
Did you try with the RDF kernels?
With what?
Gradient basis function kernels.
Uh,
One of the default choices for kernel methods.
So we used it.
Use polynomial degree 3 and 4. I can see that.
Yeah.
I'm saying RDF kernels are usually one of the default choices because it can have infinite degrees.
Mm-hmm. No. So in terms of accuracy, compared to UMAP and autoencoders, these learning methods, you will see that there are two take-home messages here. One, that we do better than the average of these tools, where the average is with respect to different choices of hyperparameters. But we do also better than the best case performance of these tools. And again, the other thing that you can see, we have no variability there because we require no hyperparameters, which I think is one of the major advantages of the tool that we propose, right? So we get guarantees. We are not sensitive to hyperparameters, and actually we do pretty well in terms of performance. So that's which were the goals that we were setting up at the beginning. Okay. The other way we compared is with respect to variance reduction and compared to PCA. And if you look here, you will see that for identical thresholds, to make the comparison fair, GFR tends to achieve the goal with much less features, right? And this happens up to an order of magnitude. Okay. So if you're interested in the details, as I said, there was no way they could publish this in Europe's. We tried a couple of times, but at the end we just sent it to the transaction information theory, where we are recording, right? Where I think the reviewers did a thorough job. I'm going to stop at that. So we still got a lot of criticism. I think that the paper is still a little bit dry, but at least it was understood. Yeah.
Let me ask you, I may be the only one in the room who doesn't know, but what is the Musk data set?
I don't know. What is the Musk data set?
You said.
Yeah, I know. This is my student did. I don't remember what the Musk data set, but it's one of the.
I'm not the only one in the room.
No, you're not the. Apparently, nobody knows in the room. You know what the Musk? Can you search Musk? I don't want to. Musk data set.
The set of what?
Hmm.
Oh, tweets. Okay.
Yeah.
What about interpretability? You mentioned.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Yeah. So what's happening here? So this applies to any reasonable distribution, right? And it has some guarantees in terms of redundancy removal. Okay. So in the paper, and maybe for the sake of the discussion, I will go very fast, so I'll just skip over this. There's another tool which is called Gram-Schmidt component analysis, right? Where, in theory, you can get complete removal of redundancies, right? Okay, I think we went over this. So in the Gram-Schmidt component analysis, you identify the ideal scenario, right, where a similar process will give you complete removal of redundancies, right? So again, you have to assume that the redundancy are in the span of the family functions, right? And you have to find some conditions. The order by which you extract here matters. That's why I'm saying this is an assumption that basically, unless you're very lucky, you will never be able to satisfy, right? And so that is why, right? And that is why this is not achievable. For instance, you have data, right? First non-redundant, and then the third eigenvector is redundant because it depends upon R1 and R2, which were which were extracted before. And the way the algorithm works is you initialize, and so you have to identify which principal components were already removed, and then focus on the remaining principal components, and then find the maximum variance of the principal components, and then you do the same thing, which is project and orthogonalize, right? So for instance, right, let's say that you have 3 independent Gaussian variable with different variances. So R1, R2 is variance reducing, which is less than the minimum between variance 1 and variance 2. And therefore, the orders of variance, you have to go from the most variant to the least variant, right? So PCA would extract V1, V2, skip V3, and extract V4, and therefore there will be some redundancy left in the data. GCA would extract V1, V2, then subtract V4 first, and then V3, right? And in this way, you can guarantee to have removed all the redundancies, but in principle, given the data, you will not know the order by which, right? And that's why it's something that is not achievable. The next thing I want to say is that you can use the same method. Instead of doing feature extraction, you can do feature selection, right? And where basically you will have to right, you set your right, instead of combining these features, you just select, right? Instead of you get the Vj transpose by X, you have to pick a certain a certain column of X by multiplying by EJ transpose. But this is the only difference between the two. Okay. All right. So to summarize so far, so we have this algorithms based on basically on Gram-Schmidt orthogonalization for dimensionality reduction, right? You have to fix a set of functions, right? And then you follow this procedure where you project, orthogonalize, subtract, and repeat until a certain condition is met, right? For GFR, it applies to any reasonable distribution. It's a linear method, right? You can see it as both a probabilistic and nonlinear extension of PCA. From the comparison of the experimental validation, you can see that it's competitive, at least, with respect to state-of-the-art linear methods and also nonlinear methods, right? And again, what I like about it is you can get some guarantees in terms of information theoretic guarantees for this discrete distribution, right? The GCA is let's say, perfect feature extraction, but only in an ideal setting. And both can be used also for feature selection. Now, let me give you an application to genomics, right? And again, I don't understand genomics, but we're working with a faculty at WashU Medical School who actually understands quite a bit about genes, and was quite excited. They were most of the people use PCA actually for problems of this sort, right? And here, hopefully, I'll be able to motivate, and with the example afterwards, some interpretability of destructive features, right? So the data set is a combination of single cell RNA sequencing and MERFISH, don't ask me details about this, of the preoptic region in the mouse hypothalamus, right? So here it's something that though we will understand, right? This is a very sparse problem. We have only 30,000 samples, and we have 64,000 plus genes, right? So doing learning over this is, I would say, it's not feasible, right? So you cannot use any learning on problems of this sparsity. And so we apply our tools to gene ontology analysis, right? So we have a number of cells, right? And we do two things, right? One, we apply PCA to select 100 genes with the highest absolute coefficients from each of the top 20 extracted features. So we are trying to understand whether a certain gene is pertinent to that cell, and we do the same thing with our algorithm, right? And then we categorize in three groups: genes that are both identified by both PCA and our algorithm, right? And genes that are uniquely identified by PCA, and genes which are uniquely identified by our algorithm. And we apply this gene ontology analysis to each group to see which genes are relevant and which ones are irrelevant, right? So this is the result of it, and what you will see, right? And we also have categorized this gene as relevant, weakly relevant, or irrelevant. So if you look at the set of genes that were identified by gene ontology by PCA, only by PCA and only by our methods, you will see that the ones that we did identify are very much relevant, while the ones identified by PCA, some are weakly relevant and some actually are irrelevant, right, to that particular process. Okay, so yeah.
In this application, you use your algorithm to select features.
Yes.
Not
Select features. Yes.
exact features.
Yeah. This is That's right. In terms of also classification accuracy, right? Our algorithm improves also classification accuracy by some percentage, which might look small, but in these areas, 4% is actually huge. The other place where we feel shows that the interpretability as a key attribute of this work, it is class activation mapping. And again, here I'm in shaky territory because this is not something that I do, right? Basically, this is a technique which is used to visualize which regions of an image are most important for a deep learning model's prediction, right? And so, we use GFS in combination with CAM to select features from a feature maps of the last convolutional layer of a CNN, right? And the residual variances of the selected features are calculated, right? And these variances are used as the weights to generate the heat map, right? And so we did compare with other CAM methods, right? Where lower is better, and you will see that actually our algorithm does better, where this average drop measures the average decrease in the model's confidence when predictions are made by only using the key regions of the input that influence the original decision, right? And these are some of the experimental results. Yeah.
So in all the applications of your method, are you always using the same family of
That's a good question. Yeah, I believe so. I believe you always used multilinear polynomials. Yes.
It's all been crafted for a specific.
No, 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 no. No, we use just multilinear because it's more generic, right? It just makes sense. Yeah, there's another application which is on descriptor efficiency, and just for the sake of time, let me skip this. Right, but again, the same type of comforting results come out of it. All right. So in terms of future, right? Why do we get right using a method that in theory has less degrees of freedom, but why do we get similar performance to kernel PCA? So we don't know. And that's something that we would like to study, right? And do a more thorough comparison with deep learning methods in terms of sample complexity and robustness. And again, to your point, extend to other classes of functions which are non-polynomial in nature. In terms of, I think the most informative, most complete paper is this transaction on information theory, although there are some papers published before that contain bits and pieces of it. Right? With this, I will conclude. Thank you for your attention. Yeah. Did you figure out what the mask data set is?
Yeah, so I will tell you what I looked it up.
Okay.
So I think it's a chemoinformatics data set.
Okay.
Where based on, according to ChatGPT, where essentially based on the characteristics of the molecule, you classify a molecule as smelling or not smelling.
Okay.
So that's
Hence the name musk.
Huh? Yes.
Musk is whether it smells musky.
Yes, yes, exactly. So I have a question, Bruno. One of the issues, perhaps with the genomics data that you describe, but also in other applications with PCA, and using it for dimensionality reduction to sort of engineer a smaller set of features that could be used for downstream learning tasks, is that, essentially every feature that you get is, in the simpler case, a linear combination of many other features. So the features may have some meaning, and then you generate a new set of features in a new space, and that meaning is now lost because everything is sort of a linear combination of everything. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I mean, you could use the coefficients, right, when you do this combination to help you. Right, in this linear combination, what are the main features that are contributing to the linear combination? That's a standard way of looking at it. Or you could move to some sort of selection, right, where you don't combine them anymore, but you choose them.
But then it's not PCA.
It's
right?
not PCA,
Yes.
yeah.
I'm curious. Can you expand a little bit on the computational? Can you expand a little bit on the computational complexity of the selecting the family and what impact it has on your on the computation? I mean, obviously in PCA you tend to deal with one covariance matrix, and there's this SVD type computation, but you have a sequential sequence of covariance matrices.
Yeah.
What are the dimensions of those, and how does the family you select affect those?
I think you answer your own question, right? Although we'll claim the linear methods should be computationally more efficient, this one I would not say that I would not claim that the main advantage of this method is computational efficiency. Yeah, because of the reasons that you mentioned. Yeah, absolutely. We have a complexity analysis in the paper anyway, so if you want to look at it, I don't remember it, to be honest with you.
Thank you so much for the talk. So I wonder in terms of reconstruction error compared to PCA, autoencoders, and your method, so previously we know that autoencoders perform better in terms of reconstruction error for polynomial functions rather than PCA. I wonder your method, since you're using also polynomial, how it will affect the reconstruction error.
What do you mean?
So when you use dimensionality reduction,
Yes.
in some applications, you want to do the dimensionality reduction, use some functions, and then reconstruct back to the actual domain that you had the data. So this reconstruction error, since you're using PCA, you're losing some information.
Right.
In autoencoders, they're performing better than PCA. I wonder that your method, since you are also doing dimensionality reduction, when you want to go back to the actual domain, how much information does it lose?
I mean, this is codified. You know how much information is lost. So I would expect that the reconstruction error is also low, and that we will do better than autoencoders in the same way that we do better in terms of performance, in terms of accuracy of classification, right? Because you can precisely quantify how much, right? And actually, if you have specs, you can decide when to stop and where to stop, right? So you can actually use this method. If you have a certain specification of what kind of reconstruction error you want, then you can tune epsilon to achieve that goal. So, right, which is something that is difficult to do with autoencoders, right? Because you say that you do well, but you don't know how to quantify it, right? Or how to design it in a way that you achieve certain reconstruction error. Now, there might not be a precise functional representation, right, that relates epsilon to the reconstruction error, but you can do it empirically.
If there are no further questions, let's thank Bruno again for
Thank you.